Right, so hello then.
Hello. How you doing?
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Silo.
Silo, yeah.
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 So we're doing Silo, episodes 1 to 3. So there is going to be spoilers, and if you'd like to like and subscribe, that would be really nice.
It would be good. Yeah. Just one of you would be fine.
Yeah. Anyone at all.
Tell your friends if you have some. Yeah. If you don't, just enjoy it yourself.
Yeah. So we've both read the book Wool.
Yeah.
I read it a couple of years ago now, though. So
it was a while ago. I think it was like it's interesting because he was like a bit of an internet sort of sensation at the time because he
right.
self-published that book on Amazon, and like it was right at the beginning of when that was a thing. Like no one did it because there's no marketing and what have you involved unless you do it yourself. Everyone thought, well, you're just not going to get it, but he was saying that it just became like a runaway success or something, and I think he released several books all to do with this site, with the silo. And I sort of like, I'm not sure if I've read them all. I think I have.
No, I mean, I'm kind of glad I've only read the first book.
Yeah.
Because I'm excited to see what happens when they get outside the silo, which is basically the page turner of the book, because there's a big mystery going on.
Yeah.
They're in this place that they're not being given any information. There's 10,000 people in there.
Yeah, and they've been there for, well, I mean, it's weird because
300 years, isn't it?
There's something like that, yeah, but they're not quite sure, are they? Because like about 140 years ago or something like that, there was like a revolution or something happened in Silo,
right?
And all the records from before were destroyed, so they don't know. None of them
conveniently.
Yeah, conveniently.
Yeah.
What's happened? So yeah, they basically live in this. It's like an underground cylinder that's massive, and it has like a ridiculous amount of floors, and it takes like a couple of days to walk from the top to the bottom and stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
But like everything's totally self-contained, so they grow their own food, recycle everything. They recycle their bodies as well, as I recall. So they plant when they die. They get they get buried and mulched or grow plants on other strawberries or something.
It's good for tomatoes, blood and bone.
Good for tomatoes, yeah.
Yeah, it's what you need for tomatoes.
And there's but because they can only support a certain population, everything's kind of like regulated. So
that's
like
right.
Like
it's very restrictive, and you can feel it when you watch the series. Like they've got that right, and they have changed the story, but that's all right in my opinion.
It does. It looks very much like what I imagined when I read it a while ago when it first came out. I think.
It feels very oppressive. Everything. Like the technology seems to be from like 1940s, 1950s.
Yeah, it's a bit sort of like Fallout 3 sort of.
Yeah, exactly.
That sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Fallout 3. Yeah.
And like there are occasionally like relics, aren't there? Like from the before times, they call it.
Which are highly restricted, illegal. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So there's some sort of there is like a government.
I mean, why would they be illegal?
Yeah, that's it. So it's weird because there is sort of like a police department, but there are sheriffs in the top and bottom, I think. But like they're very small.
I think for each segment, because what I remember from the book was there's they sort of social, like sort of class status. So you had you had the machinists, the people doing the mechanical engineering. So that would be the lady is taking over the lead in this now,
Juliet.
And there was all different sort of like doctors were sort of middle segment, and then you've got all the judiciary, and then you've got the mayor and all that on the top levels, which is are pretty much a statement on today's society, really.
Yeah, pretty obvious for sort of thing, isn't it? Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah, but
it's
they
not
all
like
did in the book.
yeah,
They were different colours. They were like brown or green, or depending on from
yeah,
what segment you've what you live in.
yeah.
So yeah, so that's good.
So yeah, it's like, but it's weird because like the people on the top, you know, I think they assume they've got a better life, but it's not like they get more sunlight or anything because there just isn't any,
Mm,
or there is some natural sunlight, but I'm not sure how it's filtered down or something. But yeah, there's definitely sort of like the dregs are more down in the bottom, and the rich are more highfalutin types live up
yeah,
top. So yeah, so they have like a mayor who there's a sort of government, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of them. But then they have the sheriffs, but then they also have this judiciary, which
it
is sort of mysterious and quite obviously in this series as well, sort of kind of malevolent. They just walk around staring at people, and
yeah.
everyone's scared to death of them.
They're like it's like the fascists in
Yeah,
charge of
yeah, sort of
um
enforcers.
yeah. I
Um,
mean they're not. I mean it's like you die if you commit a crime.
yeah,
It's not like you're given some I don't know community
yeah,
service or anything. Do you know what I mean? You literally have to go out and clean, which means death.
yeah.
Um,
So,
I
so
mean,
that,
both
yeah,
me and you know why they die when they go outside, but we won't go
mm,
into that.
yeah. See that as it
Um,
comes up.
but it's all very mysterious, and
Yeah, and they all
everyone's
seem sort of,
oppressed.
yeah, everyone's sort of. I mean, it's weird because not, although some people they all sort of wonder what it's like outside, but like they don't wonder about it that much because like they're just so used to living where they,
Well, they've
where they
kind of
are.
hinted at that, haven't they, with the breeding program?
But that's the thing, yeah. So I think that's the judiciary who you have to have a license to have a child because otherwise the population would just get out of control.
Mm,
So all the women have like birth control devices, and then they're deactivated if you get a permit
mm,
or something like that. And that's how the series starts, I think, isn't it? We see with in episode 1, Freedom Day. So there's like a
that's right.
celebration of the day when the revolutionaries were smashed or something. When like there's this sort of group of people who held this rebellion. At least this is sort of the legend, and like tried to sort of destroy the silo, and they were overcome. And so it's like they celebrate that day.
Yeah,
Um, but that first episode focuses on the sheriff and his wife, girlfriend, and they're sort of like get a permit to have a baby. And so the almost the first thing we see, I think, is she goes to the doctor to have a birth device. What do you call it? Birth control device.
yeah.
Sort of removed, so then they can
That's
have a
really
baby.
deep in there as well.
Yeah, it's a big
They don't
bloody
just
thing
stick it
like
like
that as
under the
well.
skin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, but so the doctor sort of removes that, and then they sort of start for a baby, and that first episode covers the period of a year, just over a
and I'm
year.
not that old. Do you know what I mean?
No,
Like, men can father children. I mean, I think Charlie Chaplin had a baby when he was like 90 odd or something.
Robert De Niro just had one. He's 79.
Apparently so, yeah,
Yeah,
good for him.
yeah, mental
um,
case.
but like women, obviously, we've got a time period,
Yeah,
and like once, sort of after 30, or after 40, you're kind of, you've got like the least opportunity of getting pregnant at that point. But
yeah.
I mean, she was what 38, wasn't she?
Was
His
she? I
wife.
wasn't sure. Yeah, but
Yeah. So yeah, but I mean, it's very probable
yeah,
still,
but yeah,
and they didn't get pregnant, and then she was kind of given a heads up by this crazy lady that everyone sort of assumed is crazy.
yeah,
Um, and she said they may not want you to have a kid.
yeah,
And I mean, after a year, you would think there would be something, at least, you know, maybe a miscarriage or something. Do you know what I mean? Like you'd have some kind of
yeah,
pregnancy after a year, and they were having sex every day,
yeah,
when possible, to try and have this baby. They both really wanted it. and so it puts in mind that they're controlling who can have children, and maybe they have been over the past 300 years making sure that the least curious of the population would be allowed to have children. So
Yeah.
you know, they become, I mean, they've got kind of a religion going anyway, where, you know, they have these days where they celebrate the oppression of a rebellion, and no one seems to question why artifacts aren't legal. I mean, why wouldn't
Yeah.
they be legal?
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
unless they were going to, you know, show some information from the past which completely fucks up their doctrines that they've been pumping into these people from, you know, cradle to grave. You
Yeah.
know, so it looks as though they've been breeding humans to be very incurious and docile,
Yeah.
perhaps, you
And
know,
yeah,
like cows, you know.
yeah, not like a sort of threat of punishment
I
if
mean,
you sort of
if
step out of line.
you wanted to butcher a buffalo, I think you'd have a lot more trouble with a wild one than, you know,
Yeah.
a Frisian cow from,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? They've
Yeah,
got
no,
horns and
exactly.
shit. They're gonna, you know.
So,
But anyway,
so yeah, there's sort of
so
a curiosity there,
and it's,
but yeah, more. Some of them are more curious than others, but
yeah, I don't think you can breed that shit out. I mean, I don't
no,
think it's genetic. I mean, obviously, um, because
no,
everyone has different life experience. Yeah, genetics are a thing, but um, and personalities are sort of, well, they think are genetically handed down, but in the end, you all have different life and experiences, and you know, just asking simple questions like why are antiques illegal? What really did happen? You know,
yeah,
why? You know, I mean, why force prisoners to clean?
yeah. That's just a way of getting rid of them, isn't it? It's like,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
it's strange that because they sort of because they have a rule, don't they? If you say you want to go outside,
that's it. Yeah,
um, then they let you go outside. You know, which kind of thinks, well, why would you do that? But like, I think it's probably because if you want to go outside, it's because you're curious and like they'd rather just get rid of you and also to make an example out of you. So in the upper levels, I'm not sure in the lower levels, they have like windows in some of the or like it's a view screen. I think they
yeah,
know it's a view screen, but like they have sort
yeah.
of cameras on the
It's not
outside.
reality. It's not a
Yeah,
window. Yeah,
yeah, but it's like a grey sort of desolate sort of
yeah.
post-apocalyptic.
Post-apocalyptic. Looks like, you know, a couple of
So,
nukes have gone on
yeah,
outside and
exactly.
destroyed everything. You know, all trees got no leaves on. Everything's grey,
Yeah,
dusty.
and so
Couple of rocks.
and
Yeah,
occasionally the cameras get over time they get covered with dust. So in order for them to see outside, someone has to go out there and physically clean it. So they usually get prisoners to do that, and like they're not obligated to clean, but if they go out because it's
they
des,
always do, which
but
is
yeah,
a thing they sort of
yeah,
hammered on about in the first two episodes. Was like they always clean. Why
yeah,
is that?
yeah. It's
Because they
interesting.
think that they might be able to show the population what is really out there, and
Yeah,
that's why they always clean.
yeah. So this episode, um, the woman who's trying for a baby, the sheriff's partner, she works in IT or something, or she does something kind of, with Tim Robbins as her boss.
Yeah,
Um,
it's good to see him again.
yeah, I like Tim Robbins.
Yeah, there's a few faces in it.
Yeah, yeah, some good.
Yeah,
They've picked some good people. They're all good. I like Will Patton as well as the
yeah.
deputy. He's always good in everything.
I really
Geraldine
like
James is good.
I really like the sheriff,
Yeah,
David Oye Lowu.
yeah, I know who
David
you mean.
Yeah, he's great. He's got such a nice face that you trust him implicitly, almost
Yeah,
the second that you see him. He's got a really trustworthy face, and he's such a good actor as well. All of them are really good in it.
yeah, they
I
are good
think. Yeah,
actually. They've done it really, really well. Um, but so yeah, we have her sort of. She has to go down to IT or something, or go down to help some geezer with his computer problem. And it turns out, and it's like a few floors down, so she's going to be away for a day or so because it takes a while to get down there because there's no lifts or anything. You just got to walk, haven't you? So she goes down there, and the guy he's got some hard disk or something.
Yeah, he's got a hard drive out of
He's
computer.
got a hard drive, like, but they're sort of relics, and like, you know, they're supposed to be sort of handed in to the judiciary or something, anything like that. And I think before that, she posted some blog or something, didn't she? Talking about there was a reason why the guy contacted her.
Yeah, she put up like sort of an information notice on whatever they describe as the internet down there. It's obviously like an intranet rather than an internet. Saying that this is how you recover deleted data.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, and that was immediately shut down by a boss, Tim Robbins, arsehole, and because they don't want people knowing how to do that.
Yeah.
And then she goes down there, and he's got a hard drive from a computer, and they plug it in, and he needs help with recovering the data. He's tried everything that, you know, but obviously you need a bit of tech savvy to get some of the partitions open and having a look at the data. So she helps him out, and lo and behold, they see video from the outside, and it, you know, it's green. There's trees and bushes, grass,
birds flying about.
Yeah,
it's interesting because you don't see that video like where that's from. You know, you never know if that's from before.
And the disc is like 100 years old. Yeah, you know, more than probably. I don't
exactly.
Know, right?
And there's also like schematics of the silo and stuff. And they're sort of like, oh wow, you know. But when they're looking, they see a couple of things at the bottom. There's like a tunnel leading off the bottom of the silo, and they're like,
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, because she goes, well, she's like, well, where's that go? Do you know what I mean? Obviously, we find out later on in the story. So she, I think at first she's like, I don't really want anything to do with this.
Well, she's frightened.
Yeah,
because they can get killed for it.
She's frightened, and of course the crazy lady who said,
she wants to have a baby.
Yeah,
they might take that away from her as well. I mean, apart from killing her.
Exactly. But, you know. Yeah, but then I think it's the fact she doesn't have the baby, that she can't get pregnant. That's sort of like, you know, and the crazy old lady was like, you know, you're asking too many questions, sort of thing. It puts this doubt in her mind, and I think she just thinks, fuck it.
Yeah, so she's not that old. It's not like she's 45 or something, you know, really sort of desperately trying to have a baby. 38's okay. I mean, it's not as good as 25.
Yeah. But I think that's, you just get that one window, don't you? You get that, they've got like a whole year, and they've got like a countdown going down day by day.
Yeah, it's stressful.
The more she gets closer to it,
and they really want a baby. It's like, you know, it's like hitting the jackpot for these people.
And they've applied for a permit 3 times and never got it, or something.
And you know, they're good people, you know, and they've got quite good jobs. You know, he's a sheriff and she does IT. You know, so
it's weird. It's like
there's no reason really.
It's kind of like an honour as well, because like after she gets the approval to have a baby, like she's walking around and everyone seems to know, and everyone's like, congratulations, you know.
They were so pleased with them. Yeah, they're like, so happy.
But it's like a big deal, you know, you're going to have a baby or something. But like, but obviously it doesn't happen for her. So she ends up spending more time down on the IT sort of level, sort of in her spare time. And then her husband, who's the sheriff, is like, you know, where are you and stuff like that. But he doesn't really know what's happening. But then she sees something that totally flummoxes her. What does she see? I don't know if we actually...
Well, you saw like a few seconds of a clip from that hard drive that shows the outside to be...
Right, yeah.
You know, clean, lush,
is that
green,
what it was? Yeah.
You know, a bit of life out there. You know.
So she basically comes to the conclusion that they're being lied to.
Yeah.
And that the outside is not what we see, you know, what we see on the view screens isn't real, sort of thing. And so I think because the fact she's not going to have the baby, she's like, well, my life's not worth living, sort of thing. bit selfish. She's married, but like you can, you understand her. Like she's upset, but basically they're all sort of painting her
I
out to be a
think she
bit
feels that
nuts.
she's been. I like, I don't know, as like as a woman,
Yeah,
I think that she's wanted to have a baby for a long time. It's it's like I say, it's like winning the lottery, and these fucks have told her, right, we're giving you this opportunity, but they really haven't. And she knows that. I mean, she could have at least got, if she'd got pregnant and had a miscarriage or something like that, that would be normal. But for an entire year, not even a sniff
yeah.
of a pregnancy.
I suppose
And
some
then,
people just can't get pregnant, can they? Some
well,
people,
yes, some people
yeah,
can't, but there's no reason for her. There was no reason in the story that she could.
yeah,
No, she hasn't got, polycystics or whatever.
yeah.
Like,
There's no indication that it would be difficult
yeah,
for them
she's
or
a
anything.
healthy woman of the age of 38.
Yeah,
There should have been at least, a late, you know, a late period,
yeah,
or maybe, um, something. She got a period 2 months rather than 1 month. You know what I mean? Some indication that the body is cracking on and ready to
yeah,
have a baby. And so not only is they've told her that she's won the lottery with having the baby, but there's an insinuation that they're not going to allow her to get
yeah,
pregnant.
yeah.
And then
Exactly. So
she sees the video that the outside is actually not what they're telling them. It's all of these things on. She hasn't just kicked off for no reason. She wants to go outside and see
yeah,
for herself. And now they haven't allowed her, and she knows they haven't allowed her to have
yeah.
the baby.
So she ends up like confronting her husband, and he's like, "What's the matter with you?" And she looks really kind of ill and sort of stuff. And it turns out, and she's like, they're preventing us from having a baby. And he's like, well, of course they're not. You've had your thing removed. And she went, well, no, I haven't. That you didn't see. And he was like, I was there. Just like, oh, but it was all behind a curtain. And then she goes, well, look, I removed it myself. So she got one in her hand all covered in blood.
Yeah, so she's got actual proof,
yeah, actual proof that
and
they're
no
being
one's
lied to.
believing her.
No, exactly. And her husband is kind of like, he's a bit confused by the whole thing because he doesn't understand what's put the doubt in her mind. She doesn't really tell him,
Well,
to be
no, she
honest.
doesn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
apart from like,
Well, she doesn't want to get him involved, as
yeah.
well,
So
until she's got actual
yeah.
proof.
But
Yeah.
then she sort of like, you can see her more and more frazzled, and then she just goes, "I want to go outside," and like she does it publicly, and it means you are going to go outside. So she just wants proof for herself, and there's nothing they can do about it. No one can stop that. It's like one of those, I think someone actually says in one of the episodes, if the system we live under, could be boiled down to one sentence, it's that if someone says you want to go outside, then you go outside, but it means
Yeah.
death, which
Yeah,
is
it's
weird.
certain death. Yeah.
So she basically starts that ball rolling, and he's like still asking her why, and she's still being quite cryptic.
Yeah, he's heartbroken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she's still being sort of like, we're just being lied to. She does come across as a bit of a crazy person. I mean, we get to see, her looking at the silo plans and stuff, so we don't think she's crazy, but everyone else kind of does. But she says, I'll go outside and we'll have a code. She said, if what I suspect is the truth, which is that it's all green out there and it's perfectly fine and the air is breathable, because at the moment, anyone who goes out, they last a couple of minutes and then they just drop dead.
That's right.
And they don't know whether it's the air or radiation or something. They just don't know. She says, if I clean the camera, it means that I was right and it's all green outside and everything's fine. And if I don't, like if I've made a mistake, and I'm just being paranoid,
I'll just walk off.
I won't bother. I'll just walk away and die,
Yeah.
sort of thing. So that's what she does. So we see a big scene, which becomes important later, where they dress her up in this sort of shitty suit and sort of bandage her up with tape, like to seal all the holes and stuff and like that. Helmet on her, and like everyone watches, the whole place just watches on the view screens and watches her go outside, and they see her standing around for a bit, and then she comes up to the camera and sort of looking in it, and then she cleans it
with a wool, which is what
yeah
the book is called.
yeah. Oh, I was saying something about that. Hugh Howey was. I think he didn't ask me anything on Reddit the other day, and people were like, "What does the wool mean?" And he said it's about having the wool pulled over your eyes. And I was like, "Oh,
Yeah,
I never really knew."
but in the series, it's the wool that cleans the
Yeah,
window to hopefully reveal the truth.
yeah. There you
Yeah,
go. So we see that, we see her clearly. We go, "Oh, right. So maybe it's true. Everything's fine out there." And then she wanders off up the hill a bit, and then she just starts staggering, and eventually keels
and then
over and
dies.
dies.
Yeah,
While they all watch him.
yeah, great suit, by the way.
Yeah, great
Fucking
suit.
brilliant.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. But that's the thing. It's like we're not quite sure if it's the air or
yeah.
radiation or whatever. All becomes apparent later.
Yes, it
Um,
does.
so he's sort of obviously heartbroken,
Heartbroken.
and then we sort of jump forward a bit. We jump forward another year or a couple of years or something, don't we?
Yeah.
Um, and then he basically, the sheriff, he basically says, "I want to go outside." You know, I think that's how this episode starts. I think that maybe that's how episode 2 starts. He's like, "I want to go
Yeah,
outside." Yeah, and then we
he does
find out.
something with the flowers in front of something, and he leaves a note in his file to say, double up the amount of flowers in on the vase in front of this thing. Then he
Oh, I don't
goes over
remember that.
to a vent. There's a vent, and then he opens up the vent, but you don't see what he does. Then, once he's finished with his preparations, he goes and locks himself in the cell,
Mm,
chucks away the key, calls his mate and says, "Look, I want to go outside."
yeah,
And his mate's like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
yeah,
You know. But anyway, he has to go along with this protocol they've got in place and send him outside. But there was a bit that he did. He followed up.
yeah. It flashes
He
back a bit to sort of how
Yeah,
he made that decision, doesn't it? And yeah, yeah. So he basically, I think they have to go down. Well, there's a murder, isn't there? There's a murder, and it turns out the person who's murdered, or at least there's a suspected murder, and the person who's been murdered was the guy
fixes
um,
computers downstairs.
that his
Yeah,
wife had gone to help
help
or
him out.
something.
Yeah,
So he's kind of intrigued by this connection, but also by the fact that this woman who we haven't met until that point, Juliet, says it's not suicide, it's murder, because he sort of leaped over the
because he
steps.
wasn't
Whatever.
he
Yeah,
wasn't behaving in a suicidal way. He wasn't
yeah,
withdrawing. He wasn't doing any of that stuff.
yeah. So
You know,
we see sort of introduce Juliet at this point, and she's like an engineer, and she's pretty badass, but kind of quiet, you know. Um,
stoic, I think, is
yeah,
what they're going
stoic.
for. Yeah,
She's really good, and then she's great. I mean, the character in the book is she's just like that character, so cool. But basically, she's having like a secret affair with this guy, the IT
a
guy, and
non-sanctioned
yeah, it's
affair.
non-sanctioned, so they've got to keep it secret. I mean, people
Yeah,
know about it because obviously it must just go on all the time. But like, yeah, but she sees him earlier that day, and he says, um, I've got something to tell you later on, and like, so it's quite obvious he wasn't suicidal or something, and then
yeah.
yeah, so she says it's murder, and like, there's very rarely that they have murders, so the sheriff from up top has to go down and investigate, and it's him, and then he finds out that the person who's murdered has this connection with his wife, um, and that he's just sort of intrigued now, and then Juliet starts to sort of eventually take him into her confidence and say, there's something more going on. He was working on something. I don't really know the whole story, and ends up taking the sheriff down to the bottom level, I think. And there's like a lower level which most people don't know about. And there's a huge chamber sort of underneath, and it's like has the drill that probably built the thing in the first place, and and he's collecting relics, which is highly illegal and all that kind of shit. But she doesn't really know the full story.
No, she doesn't. Yeah. I mean, I think all of the characters are like the ones who are curious are sort of protecting their loved ones because they know how dangerous it is to be messing about with this stuff. It's like instant death, you know. So they want to have proper proof of something, you know, before they get anyone else involved. So Julia was seeing the guy who fixed machines on a lower level, and it was an unsanctioned thing, and he gets murdered, or she said it's not, you know, she says it's murder, but they're saying it's suicide, and he leaves her sort of like breadcrumbs to go to find out what he knew, and it was one of those Pez, you know, sweet things, the sweet dispensers. Where did you last see it? So where she last saw it was, so she shows the sheriff this, and they go down to where she last saw it, and it was in this sort of like cave with this great big drilling machine, and it's got like a little sort of shed down there that he uses with bits and pieces and lots of relics.
Yeah, I think that's where they've been meeting up in secret, isn't it? Yeah, there's
that's
a big
right.
bed there.
Yeah,
bed
that's
in a
right.
tent.
Yeah, there's a secret. It's out of the way. No one knows. And the sheriff's kicking off. He's like, "Oh my god, these are all relics," and you know but he wants to know. So they follow this bit of wire down to a plank that sort of opens up into this really dark, deep internal lake.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where you leave it in episode 2, isn't it? Where she goes down there.
Yeah, because I think he said something about her boyfriend was like, I think it might be a door. I found something. I think it might be a door.
Right.
But like, he doesn't really say where it is or whatever, only that it's down below. And then the day of his suicide, he leaves her a note, or day of his murder, leaves her a note saying, I found what I was looking for. Yeah. Weird thing to write for someone. So yeah, she goes down exploring, and that's where episode 2 ends up. So but in the meantime, the sheriff has gone outside and died. Yeah, so the sheriff goes outside, doesn't he?
He wants to find out where he wants to be with his wife. He wants to know, basically. Yeah.
But we see him outside, and he's like, we don't see what he sees, but he says it's true. I think he says something like, "Oh, she was right," or something like that. But we don't see that.
No, but also he takes his helmet off, which is the first time in hundreds of years that it's the first time that anyone's ever done that. So you kind of wonder what's going on in the helmet.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah, exactly. Again, that all becomes sort of, you know, as I remember from the book, you know, it's quite elaborate what's going on. So at the end of the second episode, we've got 2 people gone outside. There's, you know, sort of a conspiracy. But then the sheriff, in his last act, leaves a note for the mayor, who seems like a pretty good sort.
Yeah.
And, you know, she's like, and the message is that he can nominate a new sheriff. They don't have to take her, but like, it's usually a pretty good indication. And he nominates this woman, Juliet, you know, who's not a
no,
sheriff.
She's from the machine district.
She's just a machine thing, yeah.
Yeah.
So that kind of intrigues the mayor. So I think that's where we start off with episode 3, which I only watched this morning. So there's a couple of things going on in episode 3. So we have a crisis with the generator. So all their power and everything powered by this huge machine. But it's like they're patching it up constantly, you know, because it runs. It just doesn't ever shut off. It's just been running for couple of hundred years or however long. But like, you know, she's like, it's gonna break completely, and then we're fucked. We're totally fucked. So she's like, we need to shut it down. you know, and everyone's like, it's just never happened. You know, it's just unprecedented. But like, you know, they
It
don't take
has to
that.
happen.
Yeah, they don't take that
Yeah.
much convincing. To be fair, they're just like, you know, it's either the thing breaks and we're not able to fix it ever,
Mm.
or we shut it down for a few hours and try and fix it. So it's like, okay, fair enough. And in the meantime, the deputy and the mayor are going to sort of go down and speak to Juliet. And of course, this takes days, so because it's so far, that there's so many levels. So, you know, and there's a sort of nice little romance going on between those two, which was kind of
Yeah.
sweet, which I remember from the book as well. You know, you could tell they sort of knew each other, I think, from the past, but they were just sort of the older generation, a bit more sort of, you know, that was kind of nice. It was
I
sort of sweet.
liked it when so uh, the sort of like the deputy sheriff who's now there with the mayor, and they walked down a few levels, and he said, "You haven't put a lot of water in here." So, like, he knew that she wanted to make stops on the way. You know, that
Mm,
oh, I've run out of water. Can I have some of yours, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? He
yeah.
knows that she's planning.
I didn't notice that actually. I didn't
Yeah,
realize. I remember the thing about the water, but I don't remember. I couldn't
yeah,
think why
she's
she
planned
did
the
it.
whole route, and he knows it because
Yeah,
he knows her, and the fact that she didn't go to visit the judiciary,
yeah.
you know, the justice people,
But
she
she
just
went
sort of
there,
stood
didn't she? And just
outside
stood there, yeah, just to make
having
a
a little
point.
sip of water. I'm here, you can
Yeah,
see me, I ain't coming in, sort of thing. And he
bug us
goes, "You
off
did
again.
that sort of on purpose, sort of thing." Paraphrasing there. And so they know each other very well, and you can tell that through their interaction.
Yeah,
And she's obviously got a bit of a plan. I mean, you know, the main mission is to go down and see this Julia person who's been recommended for the job. Um, but she also wants to make a statement. She wants the people to see her because they're all a bit, you
mm.
know, they're all a bit frightened because this sheriff, you know, has decided to go and
Yeah,
die basically, and they feel a bit, you know, it's uncomfortable, you know,
yeah. And the
it's
deputy
frightening.
guy doesn't want the job. He feels like he's too old. He's had enough. I think it was just put him over the edge. He just says he
Yeah,
does. He just. I mean, you don't really. He's just like, I just don't want the job. It's not that he doesn't want the responsibility. He just doesn't think he'd be
he's
a
just
good.
done it. He's been there for
Yeah.
years.
He
He
just.
wants to move on now. Yeah,
Yeah. He
fair
just
enough.
like doesn't. They. You know. We need a new, maybe younger sheriff. You know. He said, I'm just tired, sort of
Yeah,
thing. Which you kind of like think fair enough.
yeah. So
Um,
they embark on this journey all the way down, and it's a few days worth of walking. They obviously stop off in a few places. I think they stopped off in and she wanted to see the babies, you know, talk to the
yeah.
people, all that sort of thing. And then they eventually get down to the engineering section, which is in the bowels, I think, of this silo.
Mm,
And everything's kicking off. This machine that's been running, like you say, constantly for, you know, hundreds of years without actual. I mean, I don't know how you would do that. I mean, you need a maintenance hour at least every night for something as big as that. Um, and it really reminds me. I used to work stations engineering, and one of the blokes he used to work in Battersea Power Station in London. He took me there. The place is fucking huge, and this is
yeah.
when it was a working power station. They've since shut it down, and
Turned
I
it
think
into
they're making
flats or something. I think. Yeah.
shops or some
Some
shit.
shit. Yeah.
But he took me to see the furnace. Now I was expecting, I don't know what I was expecting, but the furnace is like 100 foot by 100 foot by 100 foot wall room of flame,
Wow.
and you get to see it through a tiny little window. So it's all in concrete. You get to see it in a little view window this big, and it's just like you've never seen it anything. I was so privileged to see that, but it just blows your mind
Yeah.
how large, just how powerful this place was.
Yeah.
It's basically it's just massive the amount of stuff they're burning in this furnace, and I got to see that. Very privileged. But the idea that they could shut something down like that because I was like picking holes. You probably need a few hours to at least shut that
Yeah.
down till it stops completely, rather than like a few minutes, which is what happened in the season. But it really reminds me of that. But I see everything's dirty, covered in dust.
Yeah.
You know, people have got black shit all over their face. You know what I mean? They're they're all wearing dirty clothes, sweating. It really reminded me of that, and yeah, so they kind of got that down.
It's weird because they were talking about a backup generator, weren't they? But like,
Yeah,
I don't
where's
know,
that?
but it didn't really, they didn't really turn it on or anything, did they? They did mention, oh, we've got
They
the
did
backup,
turn it on.
but like
That's why
when,
they got like, they got a small amount of power. But
oh,
how
maybe
it's
that's it. Yeah,
powered, where is it?
yeah,
Why, why is it okay to use? Is it still okay? Because it
yeah.
was sort of like it's there,
I don't quite,
but
yeah, I don't quite remember from the book
is anyone
either. But
maintaining that shit as well? I don't
yeah,
know, but
I
this is
think
just nitpicking. But
that was it. She was like, if we won't be able to rely on the backup generator forever, sort of thing, and it'll only
yeah,
power a couple of floors. you know. So they have to shut it down and fix.
yeah,
She's like, that there's something broken inside, and it's kind of wobbling itself to death because it's just like it's a turbine. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So, but then it turns out they haven't got very long to do it because they're
yeah.
going to
Less than
have to
30
build up
minutes.
pressure, or in this thing, I can't
Yeah,
remember what
you
they
think
said.
they'd have a fucking out valve? Any
Yeah,
engineer would have a fucking out valve.
yeah, it was a bit weird. So basically, it puts them in a sort of very time critical situation where they have to get it done as quickly as possible, or the pressure's going to explode on this thing and will probably
And
ruin
kill them
things
all.
forever and kill everyone, and then they've got no power forever. Um, and it's weird because that sort of went ahead, and we really without anyone's approval, like the judiciary or anything, they just did
Yeah, the
it.
mayor just said, yeah, let's do
Yeah, the
it.
mayor said yes.
Yeah.
So I mean, consequences for that. I think but yeah, she just kind of went ahead and said yeah. Well, I don't even know if they even
Well,
asked. Well,
we,
they
we
did
get the
ask her.
consequences at the end of the episode, don't
Yeah,
we?
well, exactly. Yeah. So basically, they do that. We see a lot of Juliet is basically in a little tiny part of the generator with a hose blasting water at this
Yeah,
door, which is red
you'd have
hot.
an out vent there as well.
Yeah, because they're
Yeah.
trying to, so it's like, and there's some poor geezer up there trying to fix one of these rotors. Turns out it's one of the rotor blades is knackered. So
Mm.
it's all sort of like, it's a lot of screaming, a lot of hot,
They're
sweaty
excited.
people. Yeah, it was
A
good.
lot of, tension. It was great. I
Yeah.
think they did it really well. Yeah.
And that sort of like, okay, eventually it all works. And like instantly the guy was like, I've done it. And then like, it just goes fine, switches the thing, everything's fine. And everyone's like, oh, lovely. Well done. Yeah, job well done.
I thought they were going to find something in there, like a dead
Yeah.
body or something.
Yeah.
You know what I
Something
mean?
like,
Something like a clue.
yeah, a Rubik's Cube or something. I don't
Well,
know.
I don't know.
Something from the
Something
past.
that would go,
Yeah.
fucking camcorder with some video in it,
A
some
fucking
shit. I don't
iPhone.
know.
Yeah. What is this device? Or
Yeah.
something. But yeah. So that's all good. And then basically,
It was a bit of a filler
yeah.
episode, but it
Was a
did
bit, yeah.
it did a world building.
Yeah.
You got to see sort of some of the levels.
I think they have to pack a lot in. I think there's
Mm,
10 episodes of this series, and I don't know whether they'll do another
yeah,
because I'm not sure how many of the sort of books they're going to do or something like that.
let's hope they do them all. But yeah,
I hope so because it's really good. One of the things about it is like it's that it's just nice, decent drama with really good actors. There's no fucking politics about it. There's nothing sort of like modern day. You know what I mean? You know what
it's
I'm
not
trying
been
to talk
inserted
about.
into
Yeah,
that.
there's
Yeah,
sort of like
yeah.
modern day
It's
politics in here to
it,
sort of like appease people. It's just a very
it's
faithful
just
recreation of a really good story,
yeah,
and like,
exactly.
and it
Yeah,
just
exactly.
such takes you
Because I
away from
think
reality rather than throwing you into modern
yeah,
reality, right? Which we don't want because we're all
no,
sick
it's
of
a whole
life.
world. It's a fantasy world that has been built. It's
Yeah,
based on our world, but anything that has been, they're not going to inject anything from modern day into there because it will fucking burst the bubble.
But it doesn't stop them doing it to other shows, though, does it? That's the problem. It's like,
Yeah, but it ruins other shows.
well, it
That's the
does. It
problem.
completely
It really
does.
does ruin.
Yeah.
You
But so
don't
that's
read
why
fantasy or sci-fi because you want to be reminded of today. You read it as an escape.
Exactly.
You do not want to have all this other bullshit that is happening right now interjected into your fantasy.
So I think it was really good of them.
Otherwise.
I mean, to be honest, there's, I think there's hopefully we'll start to see a bit of a turn back to the. I mean, you can just see like it's a really popular show. It's got really good ratings and stuff, and it's a very popular book. It was a very, it's mainly because
he did really well with it. I mean, self-published, all of that.
Yeah,
he really did a fantastic job, and you can see that he's really studied how to, when you read the book, how to get people's attention, because he starts the book off with a man walking to his death.
Yeah.
And that's how he starts the book. So you immediately, you want to know why is he going to his death? What is going on?
It's written really well, and like he's had lots of input on the show as well.
Yeah, so he should. Yeah. Yeah.
And they've
done his story. It's his creation.
It's a great story. Yeah. I mean, I remember reading those books and like kind of just proper like racing through them. Proper couldn't put them down because it was just
page turners. Yeah,
and especially as the story as the story expands and you find out more what's going on or what has happened, and sort of I mean he does a good job of like lots of things are explained. I won't spoil it here, but like lots of things are explained, but a lot isn't. Even when you finish all the books,
he keeps you. It's it's intriguing.
Even when you do find out big revelations, it's still and they're kind of like bloody hell. But like there's still more. He did a really good job of keeping that tension there the whole way. So I mean, at the end of this episode, everyone's kind of like, okay, we've kind of sort of forgotten about the mystery a little bit, apart from the fact that the sheriff insisted that Juliet should be the new sheriff when she's not a sheriff, she's an engineer.
Well, she didn't want to do it either.
Yeah, she didn't want to do it.
Then she read what the sheriff had scratched into the back of his badge, which he'd left her.
Which just said truth.
Truth. And she thought, right, fuck it, let's do it.
Yeah. So I think, so that was really good. But then we see the mayor and Deputy Marnes sort of back up top, and she's in a nice office,
and they've just got together.
Yeah, and they've got some old bottles of wine there. She's got some bottles of wine from God knows when, privilege of being a mayor and what have you. And they're like,
I'm sure wine doesn't last beyond 2 years. I'm sorry, but if there's 100 years old, that's going to be vinegar.
I think it does last. I think you can get very old bottles of wine.
Yeah, I don't believe that. That's a tough thing, man. That's
what a tough thing.
Yeah, tough to tell you that.
Exactly. Give me a frothing mug of ale.
Bitter.
A can of
bitter.
A can of Foster's, please, barman. In a mug.
La-di-da in a mug.
Yeah, Mr. La-di-da. But so we see them up there, and like the sheriff is kind of like, oh, all right. So they have a little kiss at some point, don't they? They have a little sort of kiss,
I think they have
which
a
is
bit
nice.
Of bit of je ne sais quoi.
And like that's kind of sweet because they sort of like each other, and that's kind of nice.
That's a bit nice.
And then they're sort of like, she signs the order. I think she signs the order saying we're going to make her the sheriff. And then she's kind of like a bit agitated, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm fine."
She's not feeling well.
Not feeling well, and she's like, "Why don't you grab a bottle of wine and take me back to my place?" And he's like, "All right."
Yeah.
Sort of like that. Yeah. Really?
Yes, please.
So she goes, "I'm just going to the toilet," So she goes.
I just get out of my trousers.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just going to slip into something more comfortable. So she buggers her to the loo, and he's like, he's got all the he's at the booze table, and he's like, is one bottle got to be enough? You think, oh, bloody hell, he's got a taste for it now. But then he's like, he doesn't hear from her, and then he hears a smash from the bathroom, and he walks in, and he smashes the door down, and she's lying on the floor, blood coming out of her mouth, and
Yeah,
and
she's been poisoned,
that's
man.
how it ends. So she's been poisoned.
Yeah.
Not quite sure how or when that happened.
Judiciary.
Must be the judiciary, but but I think, I mean, we'll have to
She's
see in
too
the next
popular.
episode.
She's too nice. She's
Yeah,
got
she
a bit of
just
integrity. You
yeah,
know,
she seems like an all right sort. She's not power hungry or anything like that.
no,
She's just sort of
but she
like
has said yes to Julia
yeah,
being the
Juliet.
sheriff.
Yeah. So yeah, she said. So
So
it's
that's
like
why they want to knock her off.
So yeah,
Cunts.
so that's
Yeah.
probably where we're gonna find out a lot more in
Yeah.
the next episode. So
Yeah,
I'm
really good.
I'm really into it.
Fantastic
Yeah,
show.
and we have to do it week by week from now on because they're only coming out once a week.
Yeah.
Old school. But I think yeah, I'm happy to do that. I'm really liking it. It's really
Yeah,
good.
it's a great production. Fantastic job by all. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the books are well worth a read.
Totally worth read. Yeah.
They haven't done anything. They haven't
Hugo
made any.
Hughes? Is it Hugo
Hugh
Hughes?
Howey.
Howie.
Hugh
Right.
Howey, yeah.
Hugo
But
Howie. Yeah.
Hugh Howey.
Wool is the first one. It's a trilogy, isn't it? Yeah.
There is a cut, yeah, and there may be more.
And also, I just want to put this out there. I'm not. We're not getting any money for this, by the way. So if you want to subscribe and like,
you can do. It won't cost you nothing.
It won't cost you nothing. But the first book, Wool, is on Amazon at the moment for free.
Really?
It's free. I downloaded, yeah, because I had a copy ages ago on another Kindle, and that's been disappeared. So I thought I'd get, another copy, and it was free.
I'd like to read them again.
£0.00 dollars, rubles, what you like. It's free to buy that book.
He's done all right out of it. He's like, he seems genuinely sort of like. Kind of like just amazed by the whole thing. It's just totally made his life, You
probably have to, pay for the other two, but it's worth it. He studied his craft. He knows how to write a book.
Because I remember reading that and thinking, when I first got that, I was like, this is going to be shit. This is like an amateur author, which is a really sort of shit way to think. But I mean, that's just the way people think, I think sometimes, So I feel ashamed of myself. But I was like, this is just an amateur author. This is going to be terrible. Why would I bother? But I think it was one of the first sort of like social, like a social media thing. It was a lot of people were talking about it.
But he studied how to write books. He hasn't just like put them down.
But I mean,
my dog threw up on my carpet and then I walked out and washed the car. Do you know what I mean?
But there's still like a sort of underlying, not prejudice, not the right word. I can't find the word.
No, it is prejudice.
But it's basically like he's an amateur author that he's published his own book. This isn't going to be any good.
That's what publishing companies want you to think.
Yeah.
A lot of self-published shit is bullshit, but this guy's done a really good job. He studied his craft. He's written a good book. And now, now it's successful. It's fantastic. Yeah. Good for him.
I thought it was, I remember at the time, like, I thought it was brilliant. It was really, really original as well. It was such a good story. And as it went on and you found out more and more about what's going on, it was just more like mind-blowing.
Yeah.
But also kind of believable.
Yeah, of course
There's nothing about it that's another thing. There's nothing supernatural about this, about the book. It's very believable, He did a really, really good job. And the people who are obviously doing the series are like totally just like, we're going to do a faithful adaptation. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be changes. There always are, but you'd have to fill in.
I think the story is definitely different, but you have to move the story around to fit a screenplay rather than a book. Yeah. Books work completely differently than screenplays. So you've got to, and they've done like the pacing in this particular episode, episode number 3. I felt the stress of it. I felt, I was engaged in it, and I wanted them to succeed. I thought something terrible was going to happen. They were up against it. I mean, both parties, the engineering crew, obviously were under a lot more sort of physical danger than the two sort of middle-aged elderly people walking down hundreds of miles of steps. But each, they had both of the stories were engaging. They did that really well. I mean, you've got a couple on a walk, and you've got this explosion that might have happened in engineering. Those two against each other.
Yeah.
It was done very well,
It
very
was done,
well.
and it's
Yeah,
weird because, like, you know, it's all about the whole fragility of the thing. Really, is that they
yeah,
kind of
it's
got
very
everything they
fragile.
need.
Yeah,
You know, they don't really know that there's other things outside. You know, they don't know what is outside. It's all they know is that something happened and it's unlivable. Um, but
that's
like
what
all of
they've
a
been
sudden,
told.
yeah.
Yeah.
But then you have
Oh, the
these
other
sort of
thing though that
doubts.
we do see when they turn over from the
Oh,
main generation.
yeah,
Did you see that?
yeah,
So when they turned off the main generator, which they were going to fix, and went over to the subsidiary one, um, for a brief second, you got to see the outside world, didn't you?
yeah. Or you saw a green landscape just
Yeah,
for a second, and only a few people saw it. I
yeah,
think one woman definitely saw it. A lot of people, yeah, because it just sort of flashed up. But it
yeah,
was like this, you know. So it's obviously like one of those images is not real. Maybe both. You know,
yeah.
you're not. You know,
But
you
then you would
still don't quite
question,
know.
but then you
But
would question A, which is the real one,
yeah,
and also why are they projecting an unreal one?
yeah, and I think that's I think that was in the book as well, and I think that is like a huge mistake, and I think that's one of the things that, you know, the judiciary were trying to.
To
They didn't
stop.
approve turning off a generator because they knew something like this might happen,
Yeah,
maybe. So yeah, obviously there's going to be a few people now who saw that, and there's going to be this doubt, and that's what they're worried about.
yeah,
So
rebellion.
yeah,
Yeah,
so that's kind of, blimey, we're just 4 minutes shy of an hour.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's probably a good place to stop, I think. There, what do you think? I
yeah,
mean, I'm really looking forward to it. Really enjoying it.
yeah.
Um,
Very good season.
yeah,
Series. Yeah,
great actor. I love Rebecca Ferguson. She's awesome. It's nice to see Will Patton sort of do something. He's always, I mean, he kind of always plays the sort of same sort of characters. Um, but like, he's a good actor. You know, he's a good sort of
they're all really
character
good.
actor.
I really like seeing. Oh God, I've forgotten his name now. Tall, Shawshank Redemption.
Tim Robbins.
Tim Robbins. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's nice to see him again.
yeah.
Yeah,
He's
but
sort of
he's
like,
playing an evil bastard in this one, I
he's
reckon.
quite clearly horrible, isn't he?
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, and there's, you know, there's some sort of goons sort of walking. They've got goons walking around, you know, just going around threatening people and stuff like that. You know.
and they are quite. Yeah, I feel
Yeah,
frightened by him.
yeah.
Yeah.
They just sort of, yeah, wandering around like arseholes.
Mm,
So it's all really really good.
yeah.
Really impressed with it. I'm really glad they did it properly and didn't try and to, you know, change it too much.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, it's just good to see some decent TV with a decent story and faithful to the author's decent.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's a reason it was a bestseller. You know, it's because it was very well done. There's no point mucking around with it.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to it.
Really good set design.
Yeah,
I'm loving the Fallout 3, you know,
yeah, the old deck.
greasy old bits of metal and,
But it's weird, actually, isn't it? Because like all that sort of stuff they use, because they use computers and things. It's like it kind of seems, maybe it's because we're getting old, but it kind of seems like a bit old to us. But like they're like Apple Macs or something. They're not that old. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
It's
they
like,
ain't using
but
Apple
us.
Macs, man.
But
That's
what?
MS-DOS at the most.
But then she, you know, she's got a camcorder. Is one of the things that she's found, and they're all like, "What is it?" None of them know what it is. But it's a
Yeah.
camcorder. You know, it's
Yeah,
not like
because
from the 1940s.
there was a very nice moment with her and that old lady who's in her own sort of, has a business of fixing stuff up, Martha.
Yeah,
And they don't have a hug, but you can, obviously, Ferguson sort of, touches her with her head, and that's the most they
yeah.
can,
I can't remember
manage.
that character in the book because at the
No, no,
moment
me either. I think she may be
I'm a bit
released.
wary about her now. I'm like, because she's
She
listening to the
obviously knows
radio.
a lot more than.
Yeah,
I mean, she's
but
got all those
who's
artifacts.
she working for? Is
Yeah,
she could be working? Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. So
Yeah.
there's a bit of a question mark there. She was in God, what? She was in something else. She was in Killing Eve. That
Oh,
woman playing like
right,
another sort of horrible Russian assassin. It's quite funny.
right.
but
yeah, we should leave it there. Yeah.
Yeah, all really, really good. Really looking forward to it. Yeah, great show.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
See
we'll
you
do that
next
next
time
then. Cheers. Bye.
Yeah, bye.